All right, let us look at the other topics we have for today. The other topic we want to look at now is the issue of the order made by the court in Rivers State, enabling the one of the 5 members that are left in the House of Assembly, one Edson Ehe, to be the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Want to have your thought on that order. One is an ex parte order, and 2, by virtue of that order which has been implemented, the new speaker has declared the 6th of the order 27 members that defected vacant. So what's your view on that order? Good, looking at the whole scenario and the constitutional implications thereof.
Well, the first issue to look at is why an ex parte order. Obviously, you will see that there is nobody to put on notice in such an application.
Yes.
Obviously, since they have moved to another political party, all right, so they cannot be put on notice. Maybe that's what advised the ex parte order in the first place. But having given that order, every order subsists and is valid until it is set aside. So that order remains valid until it is challenged. But coming to the implication of that order, I think the order having been given has been implemented in the new speaker who used to be the majority leader, declaring the seat of the 27 defecting legislature vacant, and also proceeding to even take the appropriation bill for the state.
Yes.
All right, on behalf of the governor and all that. So I think what has been done is to, introduce order into the governance of Rivers State. All right, rightly or wrongly, that order remains valid, and until it is challenged. And of course, I doubt if it can even be challenged, because the reason is that those who have left and have declared that they are no longer members of that party, whether or not they can challenge the order, because as at the time the order is made, they were no longer a member of their political party. So there will be no local standing for them to challenge that order. Appointing a protege of the governor to be in charge of the that House of Assembly. So there is nothing to challenge, really, as far as I see it.
Yes, the issue is, we are saying that there are nothing to challenge. Yes, we all know that ex parte orders are used when there are states that require urgency. State of affairs that require urgency, that even if there are respondents or people you need to serve, that by the time you go ahead to serve them, what you want to prevent from happening may have happened. Yes. So in the situation like this, and then they went to court and got an ex parte order, and they gave undertaking as to damages of about 50 million. Yes. That if at the end of the day the order is found not, yes, that they will be ready to pay 50 million damages. Now, some people have argued that why should the court be the one to make a speaker?
Well, that's another issue. I don't think that order made a speaker. All that order did was to normalize the process of the emergence of a speaker. And the only person who was available, who was the most senior member of that house at that time, was the majority leader. So that's why he stepped into the office with the consensus of his other legislators.
In other words, what transpired in Rivers State, yes, that led to the order made was not that the court made, did not appoint a speaker.
Yes.
What the court did, from what you've said, is that the court granted the relief sought in the motion paper.
Yes.
and the motion paper sought for the court to make an order confirming that a particular person be the substantive speaker in view of the defection of the speaker and others from PDP to APC.
Yes.
Fine. Now, looking at it again from the other perspectives, do you think that the defectors have the necessary local standard to challenge the new speaker in view of their defection? Do you think they have constitutional powers and local standard to challenge that action? What's your thought on that?
Like I've said earlier on, they have lost the grounds to challenge the speaker. If there is anything to challenge, it is the order they can challenge. And the order was based on the relief sought. And as at the time the relief was sought, the relief does not have any impact on them, any loss of interest, any personal interest, or any grievance of any kind from them. Because if you look at it, actually, if they had remained in the party and such an order had been sought, then one will say, okay, their right or their interest has not been taken into cognizance. But in this case, they have defected to another political party and they have declared it so, that they have so defected. All right? So, to that extent, there is a state of emergency in the state. And the judiciary is only coming in based on the order sought, to ensure order.
Yes, but these people are claiming that their defection was predicated on alleged division in People's Democratic Party and the so-called non-existence of a clearly defined, identifiable national secretary of the party PDP. Do you think that reason is cogent and credible to make them retain their seats in the House of Assembly?
No, I don't think so.
Why do you think so?
I don't think so, because the court have defined what this division actually means in terms of a political party.
Yes.
And the Constitution also have defined it. Where there is a merger, where there is a faction of the party, then you can be talking about division.
Yes.
All right. And obviously, the non-appointment of a national secretary of the party is not a division of the party. Does not constitute division within the party.
Yes.
And that matter is already in court.
Yeah.
So how is it a division?
Yes. Now, on this same issue, the states of Rivers State, has witnessed resignation of some commissioners, about 9 of them, recently. And indications are that others may still resign. And we are all aware of the dispute or misunderstanding between the former governor of Rivers State, Wike, and the incumbent governor of Fubara. Do you think that the issue of godfatherism is part of what is playing out in Rivers State? Do you think so?
Obviously, yes. Obviously, yes. Of course, you know that there were reports that Wike was actually the one who handpicked the governor. And he bought forms for all the members of the House of Assembly. And even the appointment of the commissioner was at his instance. And all that. So if those reports are actually true, then maybe there is a foundation for what is playing out now. Particularly because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. But unfortunately here we have a situation where a governor is saying no, things ought to be done properly. Yes, you brought me in, but I am now the governor of the state. I should be entitled to determine the affairs of the state. And I think it is that is now creating this imbroglio now in the state.
Do you think it is proper, constitutional, and in tandem with our democratic principles for a governor to buy forms for aspirants and then handpick a person to be governor and also, to succeed, and also give the governor list of commissioners to be appointed and portfolios. Do you think that is in tandem with our democratic principles?
No, not at all. It's obviously anti-democratic. It's anti-democratic because there is a process for appointment of governors or even successions. All right, and we have had this problem in almost every part of the state. It's not just in Rivers State, even in Nigeria. All right, the question of godfatherism, a particular money bag dictating all the appointments in the state, it does not all go well for good democratic practice. And I think it has come to a point that we should challenge this kind of situation. And a lot of things can be done to put an end to this terrible situation we are in. Because like it's playing out in Rivers State now, obviously the governor is not expected to owe allegiance to the people of the state. That's why we're having this problem. The former governor believes that the governor should owe allegiance to him and not to the people of the state. All right? Because he is the one that put him there. And you can hear him talk about structure, my structure. He wants to destroy my structure and all that. Which tells you that he does not regard the state as a state. He regards it as his private estate. So when you have that kind of democracy on quote, it does not allow for the dividend of democracy to transmit to the people. You have a situation where a governor is in place, but is under the command, the beckon and call of someone sitting somewhere and all that, who appoints everybody for him and to whom is own. And there is even information coming out from the camp of Fubara now, while all this problem came up, that before Fubara came in, the internally generated revenue of that state was 10 billion. And that after he came into office, he discovered that it dropped to 6 billion. And he had to ask those people in charge to find out how come the IGR has dropped, only to discover that some people are working these funds for the man in Abuja. So if that information is correct, it is condemnable, it is criminal, and as a nation we should not condone this kind of political attitude. Because once you condone it, it transmits into a culture, a political culture. And that culture is almost going around the state, all over Nigeria. So I think we need to do something about this issue of godfatherism, particularly where the state, at the highest level of a state, where a governor is being appointed. The process of appointing a governor, almost all governors want somebody to succeed in. Unfortunately, this our man, our brother, Nyesom Wike, when he was governor of the state, he would never have allowed anybody to do what he's doing now to Governor Fubara to happen to him. He will never have allowed it. We saw the way he dealt with his predecessor and friend and mentor, Rotimi Amechi, when he was working with Amechi, how he was disloyal to Amechi to the point of creating frictions and problems for the people of Rivers State as a minister at the federal level, Minister of Education, or Minister of State for Education at that time. So now coming, you that did not allow anybody to dictate to you, you now want to dictate to the person after you. I don't think it's proper. I don't think it's right. The people of Rivers State must come out en masse in support of the governor, and we must find a way of putting an end to this misadventure of former Governor Nyesom Wike.
Now, you said there are certain things that need to be done by the people of Rivers State.
Yes.
But democracy concerns everybody. Rule of law concerns everybody.
Yes.
So, Nigeria as a nation, what can we do to nip in the bud this ugly incidents of someone sponsoring another person to an office, maybe the office of governor, and then upon an election of that person, try to make that a mere rubber stamp, a tutelage, or stooge. What do you think can be done by the nation as a body and then individuals Because it's not something we can just leave to the people of River State. Yes. What do you think can be done by this nation?
I agree absolutely with you that it's a very complex problem. Very complex. Part of it has to be through the National Assembly. Part of it has to be through the INEC. And part of it also has to be with the process of formation of political parties. For instance, legislations can be done at the National Assembly to put an end to this kind of thing. But I'm sure most of the people in the National Assembly would not want to tread that path, because many of them are the godfathers in their state. Some of those people, our Senate today has become a retirement home, you know, where we rehabilitate former governors, you know, and that's why nothing is happening in that place. It's just last matters. All right? So it's unfortunate that the kind of change that will have been needed through the National Assembly, we cannot get it as of today, because almost all the people who are there are godfathers themselves in the Senate. All right? So that's one area, legislation. The second area has to do with INEC. I think INEC is not doing enough in the supervision of the parties, particularly the financing of the parties. The reason why godfatherism seems to be a bane of our democracy is the fact that most of these godfathers are the money bag, who are the sponsors of the candidates of the parties at different levels. All right? So when they see it as their investment in a candidate, all right, or in the state for which they are entitled to receive dividend. Now, where you have a situation, INEC is not supervising the financing of parties, they don't know where the funds are coming from and all that, it's not good enough. Like if you go to most of these advanced countries, like in the US, there are certain fixed amounts that you can contribute to a political party as a person. If you exceed that limit, it becomes a crime. In some countries, like in the US, even corporate organizations, their support to political parties are defined and recorded and accounted for through a transparent process. You know, and political parties should be accountable for the source of their income also, so that you can know where the money is coming from. There's a whole lot of things involved. And then our banks too. You find that a lot of movement of monies during election, you know, to assist in vote buying and all that. And INEC is just not in charge of these processes.
So who is in charge if INEC is not in charge?
God is the one that is in charge.
God? Yeah. In Nigerian politics?
It's unfortunate.
I don't agree with you that God is in charge, because if God is in charge in Nigerian politics,
we have to look
completely,
I'm not saying that God is responsible. I'm not saying God is responsible
for what Wike and Fubara are doing now.
But that's what they will say. But that's what they will say. Because there's no supervision anywhere. Seriously speaking, there's no supervision anywhere. A lot of monies are. You remember the Ondo State experience, where about 2.something billion was moved overnight.
Yes.
You had Muslim Obaniko's testimony in the Federal High Court the other day about hiring 2 aircraft to move billions of money, cash, into a state for election. You know, and it does not augur well for our democracy. So something has to be done. Then the police too can do a lot. The police, particularly those that are involved in monitoring election, they know what is going on. Such things should be reported as whistleblowers. All right? The Whistleblower Act has been passed. You know, information should be given to the authorities.
In other words, you are saying that the state of politics in Nigeria is determined by money.
It's money.
And controlled by the money bags.
Yes.
And then you are thinking that something must be done to stop it, or at least nip it in the bud.
Yes.
Right, because our time is fast spent, we soon be rounding up. We want to have your thought on what I've said for just a few minutes. The first thing we discussed about the 27 lawmakers in Rivers are defected, the Ondo State saga, and the expected order.
Yes. That we omitted when we're talking about the governor, the transmission of declaration.
Yes.
Actually, the provision of subsection 2 of section 190 gives the condition for a deputy governor where the governor fails to transmit. Where the governor fails to transmit, there is a provision that the House of Assembly, after 21 days, will pass a resolution by 2/3 of the members to ensure that the deputy governor is permitted to take that.
That's exactly what I wanted you to come up with, because
I admitted that when I was
because you see, you were giving an impression that once the governor did not that is automatic, whether there's transmission, but that
it ought to be, yes. That section was omitted when we were discussing. I forgot.
Right. Yes. So yes, so we will be running up shortly because our time is fast spent, and then. What are your final thoughts and recommendations to our viewers on what we have discussed so far today?
Well, I think there is a need for Nigerian people to be more involved, to be more participating in the political situation of the country.
Yes.
Particularly to hold our leaders accountable for what is going on.
Yes.
And that's number one. Number two, there is need for a culture of dissension or protests by our people. Well, Nigerian people accept just anything. And that's not good for democracy, because democracy is about the people.
Yes.
It's about the response of the majority. Where the majority is silent and all manner of evil is going on, over time it will develop into a culture. And I think that's where we are getting to now. We are getting to a stage in the country where our political culture is becoming a negative lifestyle, something that's an aberration. So the people must speak out and must be involved.
Thank you, Barrister Deji Olaleye.